to the regular meeting of the Council, City of Nanaimo for Monday, October 5, 2009 at the Shaw Auditorium. And we'll call the regular meeting to order. And we'll start off with the introduction of late items. And Mr. Howitt, if you could do that for us, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to add item 6E, delegations pertaining to the agenda items. Mr. David Sauvé regarding LED signs. I'd like to delete item 11L, staff reports, unsightly premises, 512 Selby Street. I'd like to replace item 4A, introduction of bylaws, sign bylaw amendment bylaw 2008, number 7081. And we'd like to add item 16D, correspondence, letter from Pacific Coach Lines Limited, re-proposed discontinuance of scheduled service.
Thank you. Could I have an adoption for the agenda, please? Second.
I understand that Councillor Bestwick was going to make a motion to get the delegation that's at the bottom moved to the front, and that I believe that was Ms. Gail Hatfield, and in his absence I also moved to do that.
Okay. It's moved and second. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. I just want to make a mention that Councillor Bestwick was going to try to come along a little later. Unfortunately, his father was taken to the hospital on short notice, and he's there attending him at this point. So he may join us later in the evening. So we have an adoption of the agenda, and now the adoption of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the minutes of the previous open council meeting of the City of Nanaimo be referred back to staff for review.
Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Presentations, and now I'll just call on Mr. Howitt to, if you would introduce the presentation, and this is the Bronze Duke of Edinburgh Award to Sergeant Andrew Gates. And if you'd like to read the citation for us, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sergeant Andrew Gates has completed the requirements for his bronze level award in the Duke of Edinburgh's award program. In order to complete the bronze level, Andrew fulfilled his service requirements by volunteering through cadets with the Royal Canadian Legion, assisting the Army Cadet Corps, and by participating with fundraising and community cleanups. His skill portion of this award was earned by the time spent in the band practicing and performing on his trumpet, while the physical recreation goals were met through his training with the cadet biathlon team, as well as running and playing football and soccer. To meet the expedition requirements, Andrew tested his outdoor skills by hiking to the peak of Mount Benson, where he spent the night close to the summit with other like-minded cadets. Andrew is now taking on the challenges of working toward the Silver Award. Congratulations on your Bronze Duke of Edinburgh Award, Andrew, and good luck with your next level. Again?
Is this going to work? Yes, it is. Okay, well, Andrew, congratulations. On behalf of the city, it's my great honour to present you with your Bronze Standard for the Duke of Edinburgh Award. Congratulations. I guess, Ian, do you want to, if you want to terminate the remote? The other announcement that we had, I'll bring up later. We have an award ourselves. So we now have a delegation that would like to address us tonight. The Nanaimo Cultural Capital Organizing Committee, and Ms. Kamala Tang is here, Kamala, and Bob Kuhn, Manager, Recreation and Culture Services. And welcome. And you have up to 15 minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship and City Councillors. My name is Bob Kuhn. I'm the manager of Recreation and Culture for the City of Nanaimo, and I was also the manager of Nanaimo Cultural Capital for 2008. And I have with me here Kamala Tang, and Kamala was the chair of the Nanaimo Cultural Capital Organizing Committee. Nanaimo Cultural Capital was a wonderful example of partnerships between many of Nanaimo's arts and cultural organizations, Nanaimo First Nations, and local artists. We are very proud of this designation as it was one of those rare opportunities that brought national recognition to our city. It also brought an increased awareness of the benefits of arts and culture in community life. Nanaimo's Cultural Capital of Canada celebration involves scores of partner organizations, hundreds of volunteers, and thousands of participants throughout 2008. The investment by Canadian Heritage, the City of Nanaimo, and our sponsors and partners not only strengthened our economy, but also improved quality of life for residents and visitors and enhanced our community's identity and reputation. It gave us an opportunity to celebrate our arts and cultural achievements and build a legacy of cultural development for the future. I would like to take a moment to recognize Kamala Tang, who was recognized for her contributions to cultural development in 2008 as the City of Nanaimo Honor and Cultural Award recipient. Thank you, Kamala, for the countless hours of hard work throughout the application process, and then as chair of the Nanaimo Cultural Capital Organizing Committee. We think that the video that you're about to see captures the essence of the Nanaimo's Cultural Capital Year. We hope that you enjoy it. And Kamala has a few words as well.
Sure.
Thank you. This process of the Cultural Capital of Canada began way back in 2004 and strengthened in 2005. We received word in 2007 that we were approved for 2008, and of course that's when the activity really stepped up. And as Bob said, this was an amazing opportunity for Nanaimo to be proud and to celebrate our recognition as the Cultural Capital of Canada. That designation was based on merit alone, no political favor or geographic economics were involved. Through a lot of very hard work, we earned it. I would like to say thanks to all my organizing committee members, all the arts organizations involved, and there were many, the Nanaimo First Nation, the community, city staff and council who supported us, and everyone who came out and enjoyed the many events. I'd like to make special mention of Bob Kuhn, Deborah Duncan, Brent Mounier, and Jasmine Zebek. Last year, the awareness and significance of this designation took a while to be realized, but now that they have experienced it, I trust that the people of Nanaimo will become more proud of their arts and culture, as well as the economic benefits, and will acknowledge the recognition Nanaimo has received across Canada and internationally.
Not insurance company subsidies.
And just for the record, this designation brought to Nanaimo an award from the federal government we used $700,000 of that award. And that was matched, of course, by about $140,000 from Nanaimo, so the city. So thank you, as well as other donations and a lot of volunteerism. Let us always celebrate this prestigious designation. And so I ask you not to remove the 3 signs that are around the city, and always use the title on the city's resume, because we will forever be a cultural capital of Canada. And now I invite you to enjoy this video of Nanaimo's year as the Cultural Capital of Canada in 2008. Thank you.
Great. Is there sound as well? Oh, that's fine. I'll be here.
For 2008, Nanaimo, BC has been awarded the title of Cultural Capital of Canada, an award that recognizes its artistic diversity and rich cultural presence.
The Cultural
Capitals of Canada program is a national awards program that was developed by the Department of Canadian Heritage, and it recognizes Canadian cities across Canada that have a good cultural development program, and cities that have activities and programs and projects that harness the many benefits of arts and culture in the life of a community.
Nanaimo's application to become a cultural capital was a collaborative effort.
It was a 4-month process where we invited all the arts groups to join, and we sought ideas to submit for application. We had such a diversity of the cultures themselves. We had First Nations, we had Francophone, we had all the different other multicultural organizations, youth, and the different disciplines: music, drama, visual arts, just such a vast variety.
Good morning, Nanaimo.
We chose 4 legacy events and 5 celebratory events in keeping with our motto, living our culture.
Celebrating the many cultures that make up Nanaimo makes for some significant community events. Like Nanaimo's history, these events began with the Snuneymuxw First Nations.
We've been very fortunate to be able to partner with Snuneymuxw First Nations. One of the big events that we did was during the Alive with the Arts of Many Cultures project. They started it off with Aboriginal Day, and it was a great opportunity to kind of showcase their culture and their traditions.
As a part of the 2008 celebrations, there was also a Francophonie Day.
So we had a great evening of dancing and music and displays, and just giving people a chance to learn about the French-Canadian culture.
Alive with the Arts of Many Cultures also included a circus extravaganza entitled Whiz Bang Stoked, which explored Nanaimo's history through fire and dance.
Well, Nanaimo has quite a history of cultural development. Right from its inception, there were people that came from different countries and brought their cultures with them.
As well, the annual Canada Day celebrations took place, and a multicultural festival was held in the Old City Quarter and brought together many of Nanaimo's different ethnic groups. Nanaimo's Cultural Capital of Canada also recognized youth and their emerging talent.
Our Spring Break Festival, which was called Create, was specifically for the youth. We had many attendees and quite a different variety of programs.
By setting up workshops with various industry professionals, Create became an opportunity for youth to explore their arts of interest, from video production to improv to backstage theater.
A lot of the students went to these activities on the thought that possibly they could make this a career sometime in the future, so it was a great event for the youth.
On October 30th, the community gathered at the Vancouver Island Conference Centre to celebrate a unique art exhibition. Following a traditional lion dance, the exhibition opened and revealed a grand collection of work in different mediums. The Arts of Momentum brought together 12 local art pieces and 12 Chinese art pieces. Visitors and locals alike had the chance to experience the cultural differences between Chinese and local art and the momentum that the art creates. Nanaimo is rich with history, so to take hold of a summer opportunity to share it with both residents and visitors, 2008's Street Theatre Festival was born.
If we started with the coal mines, which is about the Dunsmuirs, and you come forward with Chinatown, we had Frank Mayer as well, our very colorful mayor several years ago. We wanted to tell a bit of all those stories.
Give me a sandwich. Which one you want? Tongue, I hate sausage.
When it comes to music, Nanaimo has a lot to celebrate.
When we were putting together the grant proposal for the Cultural Capitals projects, we wanted to make sure that we really demonstrated the wide variety of musical talent that's available in the region and in the city. So we did a variety of concerts that showcased the professional and amateur groups in town, all disciplines, jazz, concert band, folk music, classical, everything.
Sidewalk All-Stars, the Rock and Blues School. This is one of our most exciting events because it involved the youth.
It was so popular that we had 3 bands formed. At the end of the program, they wanted to stay on. They loved it so much.
Another important component to capturing the music was the Nanaimo Drum Festival.
What made it so great for people was that they could participate, they could try out the drums, they could get up on stage and dance with the drumming and things like that.
Coinciding with Nanaimo's Cultural Capital of Canada award was the 10th anniversary of the Port Theatre.
When we opened in 1998, we had a sense of the impact that the opening of this facility would have on the region. But during our celebration year, we really heard from people what a tremendous facility this has been for our community and for the artists.
They had an open house that people could come into the theatre and go backstage and look at all the technical wizardry and how they bring performances to life. Another event was an event where all the Nanaimo emerging artists came together to perform, and so a lot of these artists are going on to careers in music or theatre.
The Port Theatre's anniversary celebrations closed with a gala.
Anniversary gala for the Port Theatre had the best of Nanaimo that have gone on to have professional careers in classical music, blues, jazz.
It was actually quite amazing the caliber of the talent that has come from Nanaimo over the years. Significant projects that we're doing this year. It's called Portals to Our Heritage, and that was a way for us to look at various sites in Nanaimo that were very significant to the Nanaimo First Nations people. So we're putting in 3 portals.
Departure Bay would be one. Newcastle would be another one, because Newcastle, through our elders, many stories were told of the history of the significance, spiritual, sacred, mythical. And then Jack's Point, because we're salmon people and we rely on this salmon.
And the portals are kind of like a welcoming site where there's a significant piece of public art, and it just welcomes people from all tribes and nations into the traditional Nanaimo First Nations territory.
In July, the Departure Bay portal was unveiled. Made of cedar, the portal depicts eagles and whales, both chosen as protectors of the area and of ocean travelers.
Each portal reflects the significance of that place to the First Nations.
The second portal has been placed at Jack Point and already has its own significant history.
There was, many, many years ago, a petroglyph, a salmon petroglyph. And at that site, they would have a salmon ceremony at the beginning of the salmon season, the fishing season. Well, that petroglyph was removed in the 70s and placed on the grounds of our old museum. We have now been able to take that petroglyph back to the sacred site at Jack Point.
A short trip by boat takes us to the third portal site, found at the beautiful Newcastle Island Marine Provincial Park. For Nanaimo people, storytelling is a significant way of sharing their history.
It's history that we can share with many tourists, many visitors of the island, of who we are. Because if you go on a website or you go anywhere, there's not much told about Nanaimo people.
So appropriately, this third portal is a storytelling circle and consists of 6 new hand-carved benches depicting the sacred animals of sea, land, and air.
Giving voice to our diverse history is Nanaimo's Cultural Capital of Canada investment in our local museum, and that investment went towards creating a newer and more detailed section that highlights the history of the Snuneymuxw First Nation.
This exhibit is a cornerstone of our permanent exhibit. Thanks to the funding from the Cultural Capitals Project, we used that funding to create this exhibit, and with the help of the elders, getting some information from them, we were able to tell a more complete story. Of course, the First Nation story is important in any community, and in ours, obviously, they were the first people to choose this as a wonderful place to live.
Nanaimo has many artistic groups and disciplines, and with so much choice, getting the word out can be a challenge for organizations. That's where Building Momentum came in. This trade show event gave organizations a chance to be seen and heard.
Legacy events are something that need to leave a lasting legacy for our city. A good example of that is the community plan for public art. Nanaimo is a very beautiful place to live, and just our environment is great, and public art is a great way to express who we are as a city, and it makes it more of an interesting city where people can visit, and residents can invite their friends and family to Nanaimo, and they can come across very interesting things that really make them pause and ponder what that particular piece of art is all about.
The art of music and movement is a timeless part of culture around the world. Here at Bevan Park, Nanaimo celebrated its cultural connection with dinner, music, and dance as our cultural capital year came to a close.
Arts and culture is huge to Nanaimo, and we were so honored in 2008 to be named one of 4 cultural capitals in Canada.
Nanaimo will continue to feel the rhythm of its arts and cultural community, and the legacy of our 2008 Living Our Culture year will last for years to come.
People want to visit here, they want to live here, and cultural capitals just really raise the awareness of all our cultural activities, our festivals, and the different cultural organizations that we have in Nanaimo.
Use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, melt, upgrade it, chart it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, start formatting. Buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, melt, upgrade it, chart it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it.
Very good. Well, I would like to pay tribute to the entire Nanaimo Cultural Capital Organizing Committee, and certainly to Kamala Tang, the chair, who worked tirelessly to make this possible. And Kamala, thank you very much for all your effort. And to Bob Kuhn as well. Bob, you, by evidence of being in the film, you were working very hard on this as well. And it's a wonderful accomplishment for Nanaimo. We're very proud, and we want to thank you both for all that you've done for us. Thank you. Okay, we'll move along with delegations pertaining to agenda items. You have up to 10 minutes, and the first one is Ms. Andrea Rosado-Taylor, Greater Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce, regarding LED signs.
Good evening, Mayor Rattan and Council. First, let me say the Chamber appreciates the dynamics that it takes to create a livable city and the fine balance and consideration that it must take when introducing new ideas and concepts. It was interesting to me, that very last part of that video was that young girl doing that kind of breakdancing. It wasn't that long ago when that concept would never have been thought to be culture. We all love Nanaimo, and none of us wants to lose what makes Nanaimo unique. It is the challenge of LED technology that we address at Council today. Signs, by their very definition, are used to convey an idea, a desire, information, or a command. Every sign created was to drive attention and, in fact, to create a distraction. Consider the 90s when council had to evaluate the use of sandwich boards. Today we see wrapped vehicles, inflatable characters on roofs, funny little men moving up and down with wind blowing through them, neon signs, individuals dressed as clowns waving at you to come into their place of business as you drive by. TransLink for the Olympics will have 100 vehicles with LED and LCD displays to replace regular signage as they drive around. 3M has new technology that will project images full motion onto store windows as people pass by. And currently, now, there is technology, mobile technology, cell phone technology, that as I walk through a mall, my phone will be dialed and I will answer it and someone will say, "That purse you wanted is on sale now." Once we have things that we imagined we could not have to conduct business. We do it through cell phones, we have Facebook pages, we Twitter, we build websites, all of this to create the opportunity to drive business. Therefore, we cannot hold back technology, but what we can do is find ways to manage it. Langford is a good test. I did talk with the city planner, Grant Leisure, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who wrote the bylaws, and they were able to construct a very careful plan that allows the businesses to engage in new technology without destroying the design of the city. They have adopted a stand that technology is good for business. They restricted the size of signs to 32 square feet. The cost of such a sign, by the way, is approximately anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000. Animation can be set, so when the sign's moving, the animation can be set, and they originally thought about setting it at a 5-second interval because there's been conversations that if the animation is set to move too quickly, it is too distracting. But this can be done. Contrast, there are concerns about images being too bright or too glitzy or too Las Vegas-like. Technology allows the signs, the contrast to be set as well. So council can set restrictions with regards to those kinds of settings so that they can become less abrasive. There were concerns about third-party messages on signs. The city, however, in Langford is permitting this, and they said if it gets out of control, we'll change the bylaw. LED signs can be set for times of days, and signs can be dimmed, etc. All that technology is built into these signs. So with regards to light pollution or evening or those kinds of things, we can set those parameters as well. Therefore, animation, contrast, messaging can all be decided through the sign bylaw. In addition, the range of colors. Langford decided that red was too abrasive and they didn't want just red signs. So they adapted that the LED signs will be red, green, and blue. LED signs are expensive, and since Langford passed this bylaw in February, only one business has bought or has applied for application. LED signs are environmentally friendly. They do use less electricity. It's important to have a balance, but we want to be a community that's open to new ideas and allows businesses the opportunity to grow their business and adapt to new technology. We would like to recommend to you to pass a bylaw allowing LED signs. Considering the cost, we believe that the proliferation of such signs will not be an issue. Council can create the bylaw to fit the uniqueness of our city, and we hope you will reconsider your position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before you go, just in case, are there any questions for the delegation? Well, is there a second? Second. Moved and second. Thanks very much. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The next delegation is Ms. Diane Magor, Executive Director, Pacific Care. Ms. Magor, welcome. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Rattan and members of City Council. Recently, we applied for tax exemption and received news that we were not approved. If you could please provide us with more information as to why our request was not granted, it might be helpful for us next time. As many of you are aware, Pacific Care has been a vital part of the Nanaimo community for 20 years. We originated in 1989 and have provided childcare resource and referral services, early childhood education, Children's First initiatives, and liability insurance to our clients in the Nanaimo community. Here is a brief update on Pacific Care's activities over the past 2 years when I was fortunate enough to assume my responsibilities as the executive director. My vision in January 2008 was to expand and grow by developing community partnerships with others, like us, who wish to provide caring services in the Nanaimo community. I wondered at the time why there hadn't been an initiative to expand and grow in the past. My team have committed themselves along with me to sharing the same vision. I became part of a group of executive directors who believed in co-location, and we supported each other by networking and being attentive to the needs of the Nanaimo community. Co-location would mean a one-stop service where our clients could access a number of services. This would provide convenience and greater support in the community. It is also economically viable given the tight budgets available during an economic downturn. This year, we had our 20th anniversary celebration, and we thank many of you right here in this room on City Council who came out to support us in April of this year. It was during that time that we also identified a perfect location which would enable us to co-locate with other nonprofits in the community. We are now delighted with our new location at 3156 Barons Road, and we live under the same roof with Lynn Brown, COO of United Way, and her team. We also agreed to provide a space for a newly formed nonprofit organization, Mid-Island Ability Society, who will be dedicated to assisting individuals with disabilities in our community. Board Chair Lynn Anderson and her team are a great addition to our mini-hub. Although they have little financial resources, we are sharing a space with them to help them get started. We are also the host agency for the local community implementation group for the personal support program, of which I have been a part of, through the Ministry of Housing and Social Development's Equipment and Assistive Technology Initiative. This program will be hiring one full-time support worker to provide referrals to individuals with disabilities who require adaptive technology to assist them in opportunities for employment or opportunities to volunteer in the Nanaimo community. We are aware that there is a great need for increased support for individuals with disabilities in Nanaimo. The Vancouver Island Dyslexia Association will soon be co-locating with us as well at Pacific Care. We are offering them an opportunity to expand and grow their valuable services in the Nanaimo community. At the present time, this agency has limited funds. However, Pacific Care is providing a starting point and moral support in order to provide the opportunity for a needed service. In this economy, I believe more than ever that we need to demonstrate how important community partnerships are. And we need to focus on providing the most effective and caring service provision to those we serve, looking not only at our own organization, but also at other service providers that require support. Working together is the only way to go. We thank you for supporting us at our open house on August 28th. We also received support from MLAs, MCFD, the Board of Directors, and community partners. We will continue to provide quality service on a limited budget, and we are committed to increasing opportunities to our community partners and thus helping more people in the Nanaimo community. The more we give together, the more successful our community will become. I urge you to reconsider the tax exemption request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before you go, there's a few questions, if we could. The first one is from Councillor Pachi. Councillor Pachi.
Thank you, Worship. Good evening, Mrs. Magor.
Hello.
I'm very familiar and I'm very appreciative of the work that Pacific Care does, and so I've listened very carefully to what you've said. I have a question for you. On your letterhead, it states that you have two offices, one in Nanaimo and one in Courtenay. Have you received a permissive tax exemption for the office in Courtenay?
No, we are
Why is
regional. No, we are a regional program, and we are in 8 different locations. We haven't. No, I don't think we've received a tax exemption, and I guess I'm questioning why we haven't received a tax exemption. I don't know that the previous executive director went after a tax exemption request.
Okay. The other question I have, and it leads me back to your letterhead. It states that you have outreach to Campbell River, Ladysmith, North Island, Oceanside, Port Alberni, West Coast, and Powell River. From your Nanaimo offices, which of those do you service?
Well, as the executive director, we service Nanaimo, Ladysmith, Parksville, Qualicum, Port Alberni. We have an office in Campbell River, Courtenay, and we do outreach in Port Hardy, and we do outreach in Powell River.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. McGurr. I chair the Grants and Aids Committee that made the decision based on the information that we received, and you were asking for questions as to why you weren't granted the tax exemption, and primarily the reason my committee, very hardworking committee, made this decision was based on the fact they felt that this was a provincial organization funded. More than 3/4 of your funding comes from the provincial government, and they perceived it as being provincial downloading on the taxpayers of Nanaimo. As well, you serve the area that you serve all the way to Tofino was in question.
We are hoping to do outreach in Tofino. A number of years ago, we did have some level of service in Tofino, but that with all the budget cuts we've experienced in the last number of years, that wasn't continued. But we are now in the process of looking at how we might be able to provide some kind of service to the West Coast, because they really need that service.
Thank you.
Councillor Sherry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the delegation, you list, excuse me, you list a number of communities that you work and service in. What type of financial assistance do any or all of those communities give towards your organization?
We are funded by the Ministry of Children and Family Development, and we also have a small amount coming from our liability insurance. That's about the only area where we have a small amount of money to support us. Everything else is pretty much government funded. We don't have charitable status at this point.
So no funding from Qualicum Beach or Courtenay, Campbell River at all?
Everything comes out of our budget from the ministry, and as I know that you're aware that the budgets have been cut. We recently went through a restructure in order to maintain as many of our staff as possible, and we are finding it challenging to get by on the amount of money we've been given. We are managing to get by, and we are also trying to help other organizations as well. Hopefully, if some of the other organizations can get funding and get some support in the communities, we can then co-locate together as we're doing and be more successful. You know, we have to work together in order to be successful. But we are on a restricted budget, and the tax exemption it makes it a little bit more difficult for us not to have that and do what we're doing.
I think it would be more palatable for the city of Nanaimo, or that if these other communities also contributed towards this project. Speaking for myself.
Okay, any further questions to the delegation? If not, if you'd like to make a motion.
Move receipt of the delegation.
Move and second, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next delegation is Mr. Bob Van Schubert regarding his opposition to rezoning application RA 222 for property at 21832177 Salmon Road. Good evening, Mr. Van Schubert. How are you? You have up to 10 minutes, sir.
Your Worship and Council members, my name is Bob Van Schubert. I reside at 2182 Salmon Road, Nanaimo. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. I would like to address a rezoning proposal concerning 2 lots on Salmon Road, number 2177 and 2183, which is scheduled to receive first and second reading tonight, I believe. The proposed rezoning would see 4 semi-detached dwellings on 2 existing lots. Now, for your background information, these lots were recently subdivided from 1 existing lot, which was turned into 4 lots. That servicing took about a year and a half and was finally completed in the spring of this year. I had absolutely no issue with the subdivision, as the lots are zoned RS2, single family, and are in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, which consists solely of single-family units. I do have strong objections, however, to the proposed rezoning for several reasons. First of all, this proposal would increase the existing density on this original parcel by 6-fold. In my opinion, this will have a negative impact on traffic, on street parking, and general busyness on Salmon Road. Secondly, this proposed development is not in keeping with the existing character of the neighborhood and would be the only semi-detached units amongst what are now exclusively single-family homes. Thirdly, I think the proposal is unfair to the neighboring property owners. My wife and I bought our home on Salmon Road 2 years ago. We were very careful to check the zoning. We satisfied ourselves that RS2 allows for single-family development only, and one would like to believe that zoning bylaws provide a certain measure of protection for existing property owners. Fourthly, it appears to me that this proposal smacks of an attempt to do indirectly what could not be done directly. The original parcel could only be subdivided into 4 legal lots, not 6. And this looks simply like an attempt to further subdivide it through the back door, so to speak. Fifthly, I won't go on too long, but I'm afraid that if this rezoning is allowed, it may set a trend that will totally change the neighborhood. Lest you think I am anti-development, let me assure you that I'm not. I retired some years ago after having managed the Community Futures Development Corporation in Nanaimo for 10 years. That organization is mandated to facilitate economic development in the regional district of Nanaimo. During my tenure, we were very much involved with economic development, working closely with the city's economic development staff, and as an active member of the Economic Development Group, EDGE, I personally played an active role in the development of the City of Nanaimo Economic Development Strategy. So you see, I'm not against development per se. I'm against this particular proposal, which appears to benefit only the property owner and or the developer to the detriment of the neighborhood. In closing, you may wonder why I am here at the first reading instead of waiting for the public meeting scheduled for sometime in November. My reason is that I wanted your worship and council members to be aware of the circumstances behind this proposal as early as possible so that you will all have some time to think about my comments. I'm a complete novice when it comes to rezoning, and it seems to me that experienced developers have some advantages over the average citizen. I believe staff has done their due diligence, and I've measured the proposal against the necessary legal and technical criteria, as well as the recommendations contained in Plan Nanaimo, which I believe recommends increased densities wherever possible. I also believe this recommendation comes with a caveat to ensure that development and increased densities take place within the context and character of established neighborhoods. I'm not sure at this point that that is within staff's mandate to make that kind of judgment. I think that that political decision rests with your worship and council. I want to reiterate that the density on this parcel has already been increased 4-fold which, in my opinion, should adequately meet the requirements of Plan Nanaimo. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you on this matter and look forward to again addressing this issue at the public hearing, no doubt accompanied by a large number of my neighbours who did not have an opportunity to be here tonight due to short notice. I thank you very much.
Okay. Before you go, sir, there are some questions. Councillor Holden.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your presentation. It's good to get early warning on these issues. And I just wanted to express my pleasure that you have looked at the official community plan and acknowledged that it is encouraging the densification wherever possible throughout the city. So I guess the only question I have is, do you have any evidence that these kinds of fairly small-scale densifications to duplex in this case, would have a detrimental effect on the neighborhood? Do you have any evidence for that?
Well, I guess I have to draw on my previous experience in business life. I spent most of my life as a banker doing financing deals, which included mortgaging residential property. I was also a licensed realtor for some years. So while I don't have any statistical information, but from my experience, I would venture a strongly educated guess that it would not have a positive impact on the property values. Now that could be argued, of course, and that's where statistics come into play. If you develop a single parcel and sell it as two, semi-detached, then of course the average price of that particular lot would go up. But the impact on the other properties in the area is not going to be favorable. I think it'll be negative.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further questions of the delegation? Seconder? Moved and second, all in favor? Thank you, sir. Carried. The next delegation is Miss Christina Rawlings, 2176 Salmon Road, regarding her opposition to the rezoning application. Welcome, ma'am. You also have up to 10 minutes. Hi.
Hello and good evening, Your Worship and Council members. My name is Christina and I am one of the families that also live in the Jinglepot area who are opposing the rezoning application to have duplexes instead of the single-family homes. I won't reiterate exactly what Bob has mentioned, but what I would like to say is that I do concur with Bob, and I am one of the many families in this area that feel exactly the same, and we will do what we can to support one another to support this rezoning application.
Okay. Just before you go, are there any questions for the delegation? Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just thinking, because these are duplexes that are being planned for this location, is that correct? Okay. Now, if we had single-family dwellings, you'd be happy? Okay. But do you know, under the current city regime, that those single-family dwellings can have secondary suites, so you still end up with 2 dwelling units per lot. So, as I say, it's the chicken and the egg type of thing, okay? Just bringing it to your attention.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the delegation? Thank you, ma'am. Second? Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The last delegation is Mr. Dave Suave, and I hope, Dave, I'm pronouncing your... Sorry? Sauvé, I'm sorry. Well, let's see. I stand corrected on that. The Soak House, 102... There's a candidate for the Soak House on my corner here. Welcome, sir. Again, you have up to 10 minutes. I believe your discussion will be your opposition to prohibiting LED signs. Sorry, I apologize for this mispronunciation.
No worries. Good evening, council members and Mayor Rattan. David Sauvé, I am the owner of the Soak House, the jacuzzi hot tub store here in town. A little nervous. I haven't spoken in front of this many people in quite a few years, so bear with me.
We're all very friendly.
Bear with me as I find my voice. It's been a pretty amazing year to open, well, 2 years ago, imagine opening a business into this down economy last year, and I don't think anyone would wish that on their first year of business. So last October, we find the economy just tanking. Not that it has any bearing here, I just give you a little perspective on what we were going through. And as the year progressed, and I don't know if you guys know where I am, but I'm in McLaren Lighting's old space on Bowen Road. So we actually don't face Bowen Road. Our front door actually faces the parking lot. And one of the first challenges I noticed was through June, July, and August, and September, which were busier than we anticipated it to be. Then it got crazy. October hit. But imagine getting phone calls from the very parking space next to your door going, "Where are you guys?" Any business owner can't imagine that, but imagine that happening over and over, putting signs up, decals up, white decals, and people knocking on your door to see if you're open. So we did a lot of due diligence in terms of, I called the city, I asked what we were allowed to do. They said LED signs there was no bylaw against it, so unless we got a complaint, there wouldn't actually be an issue. And basically said it was under discussion at the moment, but I could take my own risk. But more importantly was I called a whole bunch of hot tub stores across Western Canada and Western United States and asked if anyone had experienced that. And a couple had, and they had purchased LED signs and saw a pretty significant difference in their floor traffic in terms of non-advertising periods. So I investigated it. I spent about $4,000 US getting what I thought was the right size sign for our door. Immediately those phone calls stopped, but more importantly, people were coming through our front door of their own free will, which is a great concept for a small retail business. So that's pretty much it. I'm here to talk about that a little bit, but give you a little background on us. We felt there was a need for a store of our caliber in this town, and we spent $500,000 backing that up. We renovated McLaren's old space. I don't know if anyone's been online and seen our video, but it's quite exceptional. We took a space that, if you saw it, you'd be surprised the landlord didn't condemn it at that point. Spent quite a bit of money. So when I say $500,000, please come by and see the store. You're talking a world-class store. In fact, Jacuzzi last March gave us an International Design Award. We used a local designer and also one from California to design the floor space. So when you walk in, it's not just a box with hot tubs. It's actually a statement. And they're using it as a drawing card for international stores. And we won the best store in the world last year, not just North America, the world. And our biggest problem has been visibility. That you could say, we did our due diligence, we knew the space was not that visible, but we thought we could overcome that with a hefty marketing budget. I don't know if any of you have purchased advertising in print lately or radio. It's not economic. I don't mean economic. I'm buying advertising. It's expensive. But my thoughts are, as I stand up here thinking of our best interest, the Soak House, I'm also thinking of every small business in this town that may not have the revenue or the cost justification to do the advertising budget even we do. And to not allow a business to be visible just further contributes to that 80% rate of failure rate in your first 5 years. I can honestly tell you, I didn't know business was this hard. When every one of you that owns a business in this room told me you worked that hard, I kind of went, yeah, sure, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I didn't know owning a business would make you work this hard. But to actually have people in your parking lot calling you from a cell phone, LED sign changed the structure of the way we market our business because it actually allowed people in the parking lot to see us. And then we were closed down. We actually were told to turn the lights of that sign off. I did so, and for 4 months, or 3 months, I watched our traffic disappear again. And I don't know if you've noticed, I advertise in the Bulletin and the Daily regularly, so I didn't change that. That sign actually impacts the viability of my business. And that investment of $4,000, not a lot of businesses would spend that. So to give you the idea, I implore you to think about that vote as you think about it. If you haven't been in that situation, it's oxygen to a business like mine, but there's so many other small businesses that need those signs as well.
Okay, sir, we have a couple of questions for you before you go. Councillor Patchy?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have, first of all, a question to staff, if I may, and specifically to Mr. Seward. Could you tell me when Mr. Sauvé's business was advised that his sign was against the law?
Your Worship, to Councillor Patchy, I believe the delegation phoned staff in advance of him placing the LED sign and was advised at that time he could not place it it was under consideration by council, and we would have a report for them in the future if indeed LED signs were approved by council.
Which would have been when, roughly?
Approximately 4 months ago. I don't have the date.
Thank you. So then, Mr. Sauvé advised us that you turned off your sign for 4 months and your business went down. I've noticed that of late your sign has been on. Why did you put it on?
That's an excellent question, and I imagine you probably can already figure it out, but I'll answer it pretty clearly. If you were hungry, would you eat? If you needed water, would you drink? $500,000, my bank wants to see me pay it back. My shareholders want to see me pay it back. All my customers that bought a hot tub from me, and I'm not kidding when I say over 100, it's quite a few for a first year. I don't want to give the numbers exactly because I'm quite proud of it, but also it's competitive information. If we were to go out of business, those people would have a challenge getting service. There's so many reasons, but a business survives on cash flow, a business survives on profit, a business survives on feeding its employees.
It's a good answer. The other question I have for you is that you also have a sign on top of your business, a big yellow inflatable duck.
Yes.
Which is against the bylaws of the city as well. Could you tell me what it is? That's a rooftop sign, is it not? Is that legal?
No, it's not.
Thank you. So there are two things that are a bit problematic, and I guess the last question I'll ask for you is, when did you take your business to Bowen Road, where you are now?
I'm sorry?
When did you establish the business where it is now?
We opened June 2008.
Okay, so that's a year and a half. Okay, thank you.
But on that last question,
yes.
I'd like it to be, ask me that question as well.
On the last question, I'll ask Mr. Seward to explain what is legal and what is not as far as rooftop signs are concerned.
Once again, the question was, inflatables placed on the roof of a building are not legal under the sign bylaw. I believe the delegation asked staff and regarding that, and he may want to reflect on that comment of what advice he was given from staff.
Okay, thank you.
I was told when I called the city before I spent $3,800 US on an inflatable duck that I was allowed to put it up for 30 days. That's if you call every business in the town that has an inflatable duck, including Jerry, who's the gentleman who goes around town putting them up, his understanding is 30 days as well. Or as the bylaw officer said to me, until I get a complaint. Unless someone's actually upset about it, a rubber duck on your roof.
Okay, do you have any further follow-up on that?
I think Mr. Seward wanted to expand on that a bit.
Yes, Your Worship. Banner signs up to a certain size are allowed to be up for 30 days. The council passed that amendment to the sign bylaw quite a number of years ago. Inflatables of this size are not permitted to be placed, and therefore they are illegal. And we see them quite often placed on weekends or periods of time when we don't have staff out, and then they're taken down at that time. Or, as the delegation says, sometimes they're put up, and until they're noticed, they stay up, and then staff advise them otherwise.
So just to make sure that I understand completely, the sign as it is on top of Mr. Sauvé's business is not legal for any period of time?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. That finishes you. We have Councillor Holdham next, and then Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just have a couple of questions. How large is the sign that you're using now?
It is 5 feet by 2 feet.
A previous delegation from the Chamber of Commerce mentioned that these signs cost between $50,000 and $100,000. So obviously your experience is quite different. So yours is not much bigger than a TV screen in these larger formats, is that right?
Yeah, it'd be smaller than some of the big screen TVs actually, but my experience was the ones I think she's talking about are the really big ones that you see outside some of the big commercial establishments, not unlike the one that's sitting on this building here. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yes.
I'm not pointing fingers in any way.
Well, okay, I wanted to...
Okay, let's pay attention here.
It was there.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not advertising anything, I guess, either. I guess I'm interested in to what degree you think that the uniqueness of your signage, both on the roof and the LED, has contributed to its success in attracting people. In other words, if everybody had exactly the same signage as you, would you be lost in a forest?
That's a really good question and a hard one. I mean, I used to be in radio advertising, and we had an advertising team writing commercials. And then I did a fair amount of studying of marketing background, books that were written all the way back to the 1950s. And you could have a room full of marketing experts answer that question, and I think you'd find you get a variety of answers to answer that as honestly as possible. I probably can't sit here and tell you, other than I can tell you my own experience. The balloon, this first time I've heard it, as I drive by balloons that have been up for the year, that mine's illegal, so I'm a little miffed at that one, only because I called the city before I even put it up or spent that kind of money. Second, children that delight in seeing a duck on a roof, it is pretty special. In fact, I get more complaints when we take it down from families going, "Where's your duck?" And they don't own a hot tub. Anyway, sorry, I'm doing a little bit of selling myself here, so I'll back it off a little. Sorry, guys. The balloon is separate. I mean, whether I put it up or not, it's visibility to the thing, but whether people equate that to my business, it's a 50-50. The other sign, people that have seen my advertising or saw us in Yellow Pages and come to that parking lot, which is a heck of a turn in itself.
Yes, I've been there.
It's an asset to the visibility of my front door. My front door is invisible without it, so I would say it impacts my business in a huge way.
Okay.
Would that be other businesses? Everyone's different, so I think each.
Okay, we've got to move along. There's other business we've got to do tonight. Any further questions, Councillor Hold'em?
No.
Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I spoke to you about your signage. That's at some length. We discussed this.
Sure.
And you assured me that you did not know of a regulation or bylaw at the time you made the purchase of close to $4,000 USA, nor would you have made that purchase had you thought it was an illegal thing to do. And I believe that to be true. But also, Mr. Sauvé, would you be willing to, if the opportunity came your way, to apply for a variance, a sign variance?
If that's my last recourse, again, if I'm hungry, I'll eat. So, yeah. When it was proposed to me as a first line of defense at $750, it felt a lot like a little bit of a slap when it was the first thing I called, and I was told it was going to be lumped into actioning signs versus the LED that hasn't even been voted on. So, I would go down that road. Obviously, it's very important. But I stand here on behalf of the Soak House, and also, I'd be crazy if I didn't think of every other business that tries to make a go of it in this city, and what message we'd be sending. I think Andrea's onto the right track. I think there has to be some limits and some. I don't know the answer. I just know that there's more than just my business at stake here. Obviously, I'll think of us first, but very close second is every business here.
Is where we're going there.
Yes, he did. Thank you very much.
Any further questions of the delegation? If not, we'll get the motion. Second?
Second motion.
All in favor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Under the Mayor's report, I've got... Oh, sorry, yes, you're quite right. Nice. And that's 28. And... So, Ms. Gail Hadfield. Ms. Hadfield, are you... Yes. If you would like to, up to 10 minutes, please.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council members. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. I'm here on the behalf of the Access to Nanaimo Committee, and I would like to just say that the committee is a group of individuals that have various physical challenges, and they are supported by their family members and caregivers. And I would like to briefly introduce them. They are to the right. And we have Angela Plasteris and her mother April, and Angela's assistant's dog Yogi. We have Karen Townsend, who's up in the gallery, and her son Alex is in the wheelchair in front. We have Janelle Armstrong, Bert Abbott, and Norm Hemstreet. And this is probably about 2/3 of our committee. So we're basically here tonight to update the council on what has happened since we last presented. We last presented in the fall of 2008. And at that time, our Access Nanaimo website was quite new, and as were many of the committee members. And we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be able to update the council members that were already on council at that time, and also to inform the new council members as to what we've been doing with our committee. I'd like to mention too that we are a facet of the Team Nanaimo committee. We are under their auspices. So the things that we have accomplished in the last short while is we have updated the Access Nanaimo website. We've added a complaints phone number and an email address where people can email or call in their access complaints. We've undergone a fairly aggressive advertising campaign in the local media, as well as brochures, to get our message out there about accessibility. And we participated in the recent Home Renovation Expo that was put on by the Canadian Builders Association. We wanted to bring the issues of accessibility and visibility to the limelight. So why is this so important that we are doing this work? I'm sure that you're all aware of some of the demographic changes that are going on in the province. For instance, across British Columbia, approximately 16% of the population has an identified disability, and that equates to approximately 630,000 people across the province. So it's quite a substantial number of people. In addition to this, about approximately 14% of BC's population is age 65 plus. So in terms of Nanaimo stats, that's actually about 18% of the population of Nanaimo is 65 plus. I'm sure that many of you are aware of that. And we're extrapolating that to the year 2031, where it's predicted that it will double. So that would mean that over a third of Nanaimo's population will be at age 65 plus, which is quite a substantial change in the demographics. So just in terms of a few thank yous, we'd like to thank City Council for their past support of our initiative. We'd like to thank the staff at the City because they've been just excellent in helping us resolve some of our accessibility concerns. We've gone to them and they've been very approachable. And also to the local media because they've been very supportive of getting our message out there and helping us with that. What we're here mostly tonight is just to highlight a couple of our upcoming events, and I know that they are in your council package, but I'd just like to reiterate them as well. We have a Day in the Wheelchair coming up a week from this Wednesday. That's on October the 14th at 12:30 at the Nanaimo Aquatic Centre. And it will be led by committee members that you see in the gallery tonight. And basically we're offering the opportunity to council members and others to come and experience life as a temporarily mobility challenged individual. And I'm going to say just a little bit of an aside that fortunately all of us, a good many of us, don't have to experience this on a daily basis. It's a very short time that we'll get to experience this and see what it's like, so it's a kind of an amazing opportunity to do so. And the other event we have coming up that we're very excited about is we're going to have an accessibility forum on the 20th of November, and it's called Removing the Last Step because, as many of you may be aware, often many private residences are built with a step in the front entrance, and that is something that therefore makes it inaccessible for a lot of people with disabilities. So we're kind of named it that because that's the kind of tangent that we'd like to take on that. So we're inviting Your Worship, the Mayor and the Council to attend that. And just of note, the keynote address will be provided by Judy Brownoff, who's a City Councillor for the municipality of Saanich. And as you may be aware, Saanich has taken a very progressive view of making their community more age-friendly, more accessibly friendly. I think she'll have a really interesting message to say about how they've accomplished that. And interestingly, their age demographics in Saanich are very similar to Nanaimo as it stands right now. It's pretty much about the same percent at 18%. So they've been very progressive in their outlook. So I'd just like to invite you to take advantage of those opportunities. So why we're mainly here tonight is we know we've had awesome support from the City Council in the past in the form of Diane Brennan, who was a former councillor, sat on our committee. And we would like to welcome that opportunity to have that close relationship with the council member or more than one council member again. We think it's imperative that we have that liaison with council to talk about accessibility, to figure out how we can make this community more accessible for all our citizens, regardless of age or circumstances, anything like that. And then certainly if you're able to attend our 2 events coming up, that would be great. We are going to have media attention there, and we think it'll be an excellent opportunity to have a conversation about how we can all work toward making this community more accessible. So I'd just like to leave you with one final thought, that true community is built on when everyone, regardless of age, ability, or life circumstance, has the opportunity to live, work, and recreate in their community. And I would like to invite the council and encourage them and challenge them to commit to making Nanaimo the kind of community that this happens. Thank you for your opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Before you leave, there's a couple of questions, at least one from Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Ms. Hatfield, very much, and thank you for being here too. You mentioned an accessibility forum on the 20th of November, but you didn't tell us what it was.
Oh, I apologize. It's at the Coast Bastion Inn in the Lady Smith Room. Okay. And it will be from 11 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. We'll be having a luncheon. We'll be having, as I mentioned, Judy Brownoff as a guest speaker, and we'll be having some roundtable discussions. And we're inviting, as well as the council, we're inviting builders and contractors, realtors, the business community, city staff. We want to work together as multifaceted groups to try and see how we can approach the issue of accessibility from multiple directions.
Okay. I'll offer myself as liaison to replace former Councillor Brennan if my colleagues will let me do it. So we'll talk about that some other time.
I think if there's not an objection or another hand, it's yours.
Thank you very much. Okay. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Paggi, for accepting that. And I think it's a great organization. I want to thank you for coming tonight. And I'm sure, I'm certainly going to make an effort to be there. I'm sure I can be. And I know as many members of council will be there that are able to. And thank you for coming as well for the group here. Great organization. You do wonderful work. And thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Who received the delegation?
Seconder? Move and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Hatfield.
Now, I'd just like to take a moment here under the Mayor's report here to mention that there's a very sad anniversary today. It was exactly 100 years ago today that 32 miners lost their life in the Extension Mine disaster. Hard to believe 100 years have gone by, and I had the opportunity on Sunday yesterday to attend the Extension Miners Park, for an opening of the park there, and Councillor Paggi attended, Councillor Johnston, oh, maybe not, but I know Councillor Sherry, was with me, but anyway, it was really an interesting forum to be there, to listen to the stories of what happened in Extension, and it's a kind of a sad testament of the times. The working conditions that they had to work under in those years were absolutely frightening, and the amount of work that was expected of each man at that day of age is something I think very few people would be able to handle today, but they all did, and they all did their share. So it's kind of a sad testimony of the times. The other thing I want to mention is we were recently at the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, UNBC, in Vancouver last week, and our very hard-working staff had submitted several applications, and I'm very proud and pleased to say that at the UBCM we won the Community Excellence Award, Certificate of Recognition, City of Nanaimo, for your participation in the Community Excellence Awards program, and we have more than a piece of paper, because here we also have, and we were given this very impressive, not chocolate, sorry, what I have to go through, think about hard to soar with eagles. Anyway, what we have here is, I don't know if I'm holding it the right way around, but it's the 2009 Community Excellence Award, Best Practices Honorable Mention, City of Nanaimo, for Nanaimo Sign Management System. And I'd like to thank our staff for participating in this program and the hard work that went into it. Thank you, guys. Now we're going into proclamations. There are three proclamations that 2009 October 04 to 2009 October 10 is Fire Prevention Week in the City of Nanaimo. That 2009 October 18 to 2009 October 24 is Small Business Week in the City of Nanaimo, and that 2009 October 19, 2009 October 25th is Waste Reduction Week. Maybe the same thing in the City of Nanaimo, and we so proclaim. Commission reports, and we'll start with Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Your Worship. Parks, Recreation, Culture Committee would like to change the name of Westwood Lake Ravine Park to Westwood Lake Park, and I would so move.
Seconder? Okay, it's moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Diane, you got the next one?
Yes, also, Your Worship, I'd like to move that the Council approve the application for a travel assistance grant for the Nanaimo Blind Bowls in the amount of $400. The application meets all the grant criteria.
Second motion.
Okay, moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And I would so move the minutes of July 22nd.
Seconder? Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Committee reports, Signage Committee, the LED signage, electronic message boards. The Sign Committee's recommendation that Council direct the LED signage to be prohibited and consider giving the first three readings to Sign Bylaw Amendment Bylaw 2008 number 7081, which is presented under the Bylaw section of the agenda. And what is your pleasure on that? Okay, Councillor Oldham.
Well, on behalf of the committee, I would move the recommendation.
Okay, okay, it's moved and second. And the recommendation is that Council prohibit considering giving the first and second reading of the bylaw. Okay, it's been moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be voting against this motion. I recognize the committee has done a lot of good work on this project, and I agree we need to control the impact on our visual environment because we're in one of the finest places on this earth. But as we've heard earlier this evening, there hasn't been an opportunity for public input into this question. This recommendation may be a good start, but it needs to go back for some more work to bring back workable rules which will be of benefit rather than punitive to the business community. And I urge my fellow councillors to vote against the motion and ask that the committee bring it back after further consideration of all the implications and possible ways that it can be improved upon. Like I said, it's a good start, but it's not there yet, and I would move to refer it back to the committee.
Councillor Johnstone.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, we'll wait.
I believe with letters coming from the Chamber of Commerce asking for enforcement rather than strict regulations against this type of signage, that we have to stand up and take notice of organizations such as our Greater Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce. As well, I would, if it did pass, I would like to insist or recommend that those businesses in the community that have already purchased signs of this nature, that this regulation be grandfathered and to allow them to have their signage.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor now to refer back. Is there a seconder on that? Moved and seconded. Any discussion now on the amendment? On the referral, I beg your pardon. But you want to speak on that issue, on the referral, and not the made motion then? Way to go. You're Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be supporting the motion on the floor with respect to LED signage. At times, certainly in this time, in this era that we're in, I think in fact can clean up some of the litter or the visual clutter, if you will. And there are countless examples of LED signages that are extremely attractive with their aesthetics, much more than some that we currently see as freestanding signages. And I think that there's a place for both, and I don't think that we should prohibit the opportunities of which at some point in time they will still come before council. So I would suggest that I'll be in support of the motion that's on the floor. Thank you.
Councillor Kipp.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I too support the referral. I'm concerned now with the proliferation of signs, as I think all of us are. I mean, billboards and things wherever they are. Further, I'm wondering about other technologies. I understand LCD might be coming back, liquid crystal display with a clearer image in that too. So I'm not certain if LED is our only sort of electronic concern with signage. So I support the motion. I hate to put more work on staff again, but to go back to staff, find out more information. At UBCM, I gathered some information on LED lighting for roadways, for example. Of course, they're not movable signs and things, but I think we have to look at this issue. There's a few key issues. So
Thank you.
I will support the motion on the floor.
Thank you. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. I shall not be supporting a motion to refer this back to the Sign Committee. And the reason for that is that as someone who sits on the signage committee, I know the tremendous amount of work that has gone into it, and all the efforts we have made to look at every sign of the coin as much as we could. And I think we all agree that we don't want a proliferation of these kinds of signs. And we have looked at a lot of other municipalities, how they handle things. There are 6 or 7 in British Columbia that outlaw them, period, without any option to appeal or to ask for a variance. Then there are places where they allow them, but they have such strict regulations as to almost make them impossible. One place that comes to mind is the city of North Vancouver, which permits LED signage, except they don't have it anywhere along Lonsdale Avenue, all the way from the harbour up to the Upper Levels Highway, and that is the busiest commercial area in all of North Vancouver. I also want to draw some attention to the point that the Signage Committee made in the staff report. And although we are recommending to prohibit these signs, we are very much aware that of all the things that Council does in the way of bylaws, with the exception of bylaws that deal with zoning or density issues, anything else can be appealed one way or another, or things can be asked for by way of a variance. And I think that is a fair way of doing it. We don't want a proliferation. We know that people have an appeal system, so to speak, of, and to me that addresses the issue and that lets us deal on a one-by-one basis as to what is permissible and what is not. So, apart from the fact that we're suggesting that you do not permit them, staff also, by way of the staff report, are asking us to adopt the following guidelines, and I think I want to read them off with your permission. It's recommended that we adopt the following guidelines for use as part of the consideration of any development variance permit application to permit LED signage. A. Limit the use to static images only, i.e. no moving images. B. Regulate and require automatic dimming. C. Third-party signage is prohibited. Signage content shall be limited to those business goods and services available on-site only. D, LED signage operation prohibited during the hours of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And finally, E, LED signage should only be considered where there is a demonstrated reduction in the overall amount of signage on site. I think those are worthwhile suggestions, and I support them fully. And it is for that reason that, I have no interest in going back to this, that it's not going to make a difference as far as I'm concerned.
Councillor McNabb.
Well, Your Worship, I chair this committee, and I will support the motion referred back. The way I read the recommendation that we cannot have LED signs, is that correct? That's bottom line. Can you have, if you take out a permit, can you have, if council approves it, you can have an LED sign? This recommendation says, no, you can't. You forbid them in the city of Nanaimo.
Your Worship, the recommendation coming from the committee at this point is to not allow LED signage.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Your Worship. But of course, such a regulation to prohibit would be subject to Council's consideration of development variance permits, right?
Your Worship, as I think Councillor Padgey pointed out, although this would be Council's policy and the bylaw would read no signage of this type would be permitted anywhere in the city, it's anyone's purview to come forward with an application and ask for an amendment to the bylaw through a development variance permit. So the second part of the recommendation that the committee did present for Council's consideration is to provide some guidance and guidelines if these applications came forward. What staff, I think, is hearing is if this gets referred back for further input, we would take that criteria and get some public input and see if we get the right criteria and bring it back to Council in an amended format.
Yes. Your Worship, I'm going to support the motion to refer back, although I am trusting and hoping that it will be a fruitful referral. One of the reasons why the committee, as I understand it, did not bring forward the guidelines directly was that our staff support at the committee suggested there were several more guidelines that probably should be developed, such as location, such as North Van, and other items about size and so on. And what does it mean to say there's a demonstrated reduction, for instance, in the overall amount of signage on site? If it so, there seems to be a number of issues that we could clean up. And I also am interested in referral because I think we should explore. I was interested in what one of the delegations said tonight. We should explore what the benefit to the taxpayers of Nanaimo might be from allowing for LED signs and advertising on public buildings. We were just at the UBCM convention in Vancouver this past week, and there's a big sign there on the Canada Place Convention Centre. The building and land, I believe, is owned by the Government of Canada. There's all kinds of interesting messages there, historical, geographical, and so on, all public information and items of interest. And there is some advertising from the ones I saw anyway, a bank and I think a liquor retailer. So it appears that the Government of Canada is actually benefiting from the advertising that they're allowing on the signage of on a public building. And I think there may be some potential here to increase revenues to the city and take a little bit away from what we have to raise through property taxes. So I'm interested in referral for that reason.
Okay, Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have mixed feelings on this particular issue. You know, what are you going to refer to and what are you going to achieve out of this? I mean, the report that I see before us, there's no indication at all as to what the size limits will be for these fixtures. I mean, when I look at either any of the malls around here, you got your big pylon which advertising the major anchors within that. Are you going to allow that kind of signage? And are we going to allow the changing of the content of what's on that sign? And these things have not been addressed in the report that I've read. It says that you're not going to, in one thing here, it's recommending that we not allow them at this thing, but then when I get into the bylaw later on into the agenda, first item there is that you're going to add something to it, and then you're going to take something away from it because of the animation and the whole thing. And, you know, I guess I've been around too many blocks here, and where you got your development variance permit, why are you bothering with it? Because once you allow one, how can you refuse another one? So it's either yes or no. No development variance permit they can apply, but at least some other communities have stuck to their guns and said, no, the bylaws no, and that's the way it's going to be for the thing. So to refer it back for what, I don't know. And to deal with the bylaw for a variance later on, to me, it is a waste of time. And that, I mean, and it hasn't been addressed to this animation. I mean, we got this thing on the side of the building here, and people coming down Nickel Street because the way it's reflecting is a distraction. Okay? So when you start going along these busy streets and they got this kind of signage there, and if you're allowed to change the message, how often, you got 5 seconds or something, whatever you can do to change a word, then this is something to distract. I mean, we're getting the RCMP and the Safety Council of Canada are talking about problems with people using cellular telephones while they're driving. Not only talking on them, but texting on them. And then you're going to be distracted by this other thing. Where's our safety? So, as far as I'm concerned, I could support number one, which was the prohibition, period. Because if you're going into the variance deal, you're trying to fool yourself and fool the general public, because it will be wide open.
Okay. Yeah, I think just 2 points I want to make. One, I think Mr. Swaby earlier offered a suggestion if it was referred back on how that could be handled from staff's standpoint. And the other thing, too, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the chairman, Councillor McNabb, and Councillor Holden and Councillor Paggi, the three people who sat on the sign committee and did a great deal of work, and I do appreciate the hard work that you put into it. It certainly was a major contribution. On the referral, my own position is, I've listened to the Greater Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce presentation and some of the others, and I'd like to see it referred back because I, too, have more questions that I'd like to find out, and I would feel more comfortable with staff having to review it again, and so that's my choice, and that's what I'll be supporting. Question on the motion. This is on a motion to refer. Okay, and so all in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Paggi, Councillor, Sherry, went brain dead there, in opposition, and the balance of council in favor. The motion passes to refer back to staff. Okay, we have development services, development permit 619, 2477 Kenworth Road. Staff recommendation, the council directs staff to issue development permit number DP 619 at 2477 Kenworth Road with the following variants. 1, required building height. The maximum allowed height, building height is 9 meters or 29.5 feet. The 3 towers of the southwest, southeast, and south and northwest corners are 9.5 meters, which is 31.2 feet in height. The northeast tower is 11.43 meters, 37.5 feet. The proposed height variances are respectively 0.05 meters or 1.7 feet, 2.43 meters, which is 8 feet.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second motion.
Thank you.
And I think for the general public, Mr. Chairman, what property we're talking about here is the recycling exchange on Kenworth Road.
Right.
Behind, so that they give some idea as to what it is to get a better idea to the general public as to where the facility is and what they can do there.
Okay. I know the gentlemen from the company are here, and I certainly would support that idea too. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. DP 626 at 200 Lindley Road. Staff recommendation, council directs staff to issue an extension for development permit DP 626 at 200 Lindley Road with the following previously approved variants. Required building height. Part 7.3.7.1 allows a maximum building height of 6.71 meters or 22 feet for a flat roof. Oh man. As designated. The maximum building height is 12.35 meters or 38.9 feet, a variance of 5.65 meters, which is 18.5 feet. The average variance is 3.18 meters or 10.45 feet. What is your pleasure?
Move the staff recommendation.
Seconder? Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. DBP 148, 1400 Jingle Pot Road, 5383 Sarum Rise Way, and 809 Behringer Boulevard. Staff recommendation, the council directs staff to proceed with the required statutory notification for development variance permit number DBP 148 at 1400 Jingle Pot Road, 583 Sarum Rise Way, and 809 Behringer Boulevard.
Move the staff recommendation.
Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Number LA 43, an application for temporary change of liquor primary license, level 2, 170 Skinner Street. That's the back side of the Modern Cafe. The staff recommendation that the council recommend that the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch, LCLB, approve the application to temporarily extend the hours of liquor service for level 2 from 1:30 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Friday, 09 October on the 30th, and Saturday, October 31, 2009. What's your pleasure?
Move the staff recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Move and second. All in favor?
I'd like a question here.
Sorry? Councillor Bestwick.
Just a question to staff. On how many occasions may a liquor primary license ask for extensions to their hours of operation?
Your Worship, there is no restriction on the number of times that I'm aware of that they would do this. However, we would review each time with the RCMP and other agencies whether the extension had any issues related to it the first time, and that would come forward the next time.
So we're not sure?
There is no restrictions.
So there is no restriction on how many times licensed establishment?
There's no policy that I'm aware of right now that Council has, no.
Thank you.
Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a difficulty with this one in that it is for the 2 nights of the year probably which are have the chance of being the rowdiest. This is Halloween weekend, and it also is the weekend that the Olympic Torch Relay is coming through Nanaimo, and I don't know why we would want to ask for more trouble on that particular night of the week. I have no problems with this particular operator. They've done a very good job. I'm just concerned that this particular weekend is not very advisable to extend liquor sales. Thank you.
Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. I will support this staff recommendation. Mr. Ballant, to my mind, is one of the more responsible owners of an establishment like this, and I also happen to know that the Feast of Halloween is very important to his clientele, and I'm sure he'll keep everyone in tow.
Okay. Sorry? Councillor Oldham.
Just to remind the council, we're talking about half an hour.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm going to support the motion. And so the question's been called. All in favour? Opposed? We have Councillor Bestwick opposed. Balance of council in favour. The motion passes. The official community plan amendment application, OCP 45, Sandstone Master Plan, 1200 Frew Road, and 1560/1650 Island Highway South. PNAC's Plan Nanaimo Committee recommendation that Council consider approving official Community Plan OCP amendment application OCP 45 for the Sandstone Master Plan regarding 1200 Frew Road and 1560/1650 Island Highway South.
Second.
Okay, moved and second. And all in favour?
We have a
wait
discussion on that.
Sorry, Councillor Paggi, go.
I think Councillor Sherry was ahead of me.
No, not according to me.
Okay, thank you. I'll gladly do it. Well, I'm sure you won't like me to go into a long dissertation of what I like or dislike.
You're quite right.
About Sandstone or some other similar development. And you know, as far as development goes, Sandstone is pretty good. I prefer it a lot over Cable Bay or Ocean View.
Let's just deal with the issue.
But the fact of the matter is that whether it's Sandstone or whether it's Cable Bay or Ocean View, urban sprawl is urban sprawl is urban sprawl. And I am as convinced now as I was 2 or 3 years ago that this development not only contributes in a severe way to urban sprawl, I also believe that it takes away in a very serious way from what we're trying to achieve downtown. We all know that we need at least 8,000 people to move in or close to the downtown core in order to make revitalization work. So why in heaven's name would you do anything at this point that would send people to the far ends of the municipality? The other point that I want to make, because there is a section in the Sandstone Master Plan that deals with transportation. And I did some checking around, and I believe that at the Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee, a question was asked about the transportation aspect of Sandstone and whether they had talked to the transit people of the regional district, and I don't believe that even such a conversation has taken place. And we all also know that we get a lot of complaints about transit, and it's a given that density is the secret to a proper operating transit system. The numbers are something like this. In order to have a viable transit system, you must have somewhere around 16 or 17 units per hectare, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm also not mistaken, I believe that what Nanaimo has at present time is between 4 and 6. So from a transport point of view, developments like Sandstone really don't do anything for me at all. And finally, Your Worship, I am totally mystified why we would even be considering changing the OCP in order to include a completely new and for a very, very long time unfinished, new self-sufficient development into the neighborhood plan of Chase River. For all I see, Chase River is doing pretty good with what they've got now. The South End and the South Gate businesses are doing very well. There's a wonderful expansions there, Rona and others. And I also believe that what is in Sandstone will take away from that effort as well. But, you know, more than that, if anything, Sandstone should have a completely separate neighborhood plan just for themselves. I don't think the two match, and so I shall not be supporting this.
Okay. Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the council received a presentation from the developers on this project, and they also held an open house at the Chase River Elementary School. I attended, and there had been, as far as I recall, minor changes done from the presentation that the council received and what was happening, being presented to the general public at the Chase River School. And I was amazed that some time ago the previous council received the development plan as it relates to property by the Elaine Hamilton Park. And when I talked to the developers, they were not aware of anything that had been proposed there, and it just still showed that area at this current time as vacant land, and the project hadn't turned. The project, as it relates to, is increasing the density of what I call the east side of the Island Highway as you go up the Chase River Hill before you get to the turnoff. And there's also an interesting area down the roadway to the Duke Point terminal where there's going to be some industrial green development down there, which sounds very promising. But the problem I have with this whole issue is that you go through the Chase River neighborhood plan and everything like that, and Chase River finally starts to get some major development via Rona and the country grocery store and that, and starts to get things going. And with this development such a short distance away brings back memory of what we used to call Country Club Mall, and then bingo, you got Woodgrove Mall there, and all it ends up is relocation of businesses from one to the other because of the benefits of new tenants into these particular buildings, and at a very reasonable, if not free, rate type of thing. So I'm not going to support it at this time. I think it's a little premature, and the development in that what I call the hub of Chase River, be it the hub co-op, the gas station bar, the country grocery, and the Rona. There's been rumors of development down there, and as long as we're talking about the big development up on top of the hill, it's going to be much longer before you see that infill. And I think it's important to have the infill done before the other project.
Okay, Councillor Holden.
Thank you, Your Worship. This recommendation is coming from the committee I chair, and it is in response, of course, to the urban reserve designation that Council adopted last year in the revised official community plan. The urban reserve designation was applied to this land, and it requires that the developer provide a master plan of development before proceeding and before applying for rezonings. So the developer is simply acting in good faith according to the official community plan that Council has adopted. There's nothing premature about this. An area that is designated for urban reserve can come forward with a master plan at any time. And we've already made this designation for this property. As far as the transit goes, it's kind of interesting that on page 69 of the master plan, the developers are committing to this. The land uses and roadway systems are designed to promote transit usage. The arterial and collector roadways will be designed to accommodate efficient and convenient routing for buses. Road spacing and transit routes will be designed so that the majority of the residential, commercial, and industrial areas are within 400 meters or 5 minutes walk to the nearest transit route. In other words, they're acknowledging exactly what Councillor Paggi is talking about. They know they have to have the density. They have been in discussions with the transit that's operated by the region, and of course the transit people there have said we'll talk again once there is some development. They're not going to send buses out there before there's any development. So they're making commitments that are going in the right direction. And that particular passage indicates that this is a comprehensive development that combines residential, commercial, and industrial. There's a fair bit of light industrial proposed in this master plan, which is of course what the city needs, and which is to encourage job-making enterprises to come to Nanaimo. I would guess, by the way, that the Southgate development may be occurring now because they are anticipating that there will be development in Sandstone. This is the kind of thing where if we do it right, if we plan it right, it will be a benefit to our community and will contribute to the community rather than being just sprawl. And I think that's what this master plan is attempting to provide. It's a vision that is not sprawl, but is a comprehensive and a complete neighborhood community within the city of Nanaimo.
Okay, I just might add to that, Councillor Oldham, that in discussions that I had with the people at that time, at the open house that they hosted, they were talking about a build-out of between 10 and 15 years. So this isn't going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be a long-planned construction project. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm actually going to support everything that Councillor Oldham just articulated. But indeed, this is a comprehensive plan that is reflective of the urban reserve and the official community plan as identified through all the work that went into that. And this is an extremely valued project, in my opinion, for all of the reasons that were stated. And I would find it to be a complement. When we talk about infill and density and the fact that we need 8,000 people to make certain things functional, we don't have 8,000 but opportunities to assemble property and people that are interested in doing it all at once or in a comprehensive fashion. It's a patchwork quilt in project going on and on and on. And when I see 2,400 homes potential, when I see the 50% park space, to Councillor Oldham's point about transit, transit isn't going to extend their services where people aren't. People won't live where they don't have those opportunities, and I think that the developers have done a terrific job. And further to that, I think that the Cable Bay project will be an absolute complement to the entire South End properties, and I don't think that it's going to take a thing away from the downtown. If we have the ability to put 2,400 homes and another 2,400 at Cable Bay, I don't think that there's going to be a moat around them and they're only going to shop inside there. The downtown will flourish. The South End will flourish. And I do agree that Ronas and companies, they do their homework, they do their research, they know where they're putting properties that cost millions of dollars and why they're doing it. And this is long overdue, and be supporting the motion.
Okay, Councillor Paggi.
Thank you, Worship. I just would like to respond to Councillor Oldham that my contacts tell me that there was not much of a discussion with transit. But in any case, I also want to restate again my fears that when the previous council started to undo the urban containment boundary and replace four areas with urban reserves, this was exactly the fear that I had and that a lot of people in this city still have, because if you compare what was outside an urban containment boundary and what could not be developed, to what obviously is relatively easy where it comes to urban reserves. That is the worry that I have. To Councillor Bestwick, I can only say that innovative developers, and there are many of them in many places, don't look at these things as patchwork. And by hook or by crook, we're going to have to come up with 8,000 people, regardless of Sandstone or Cable Bay. All it takes is a good collection of innovative developers who are willing to work with brownfield, so-called, and they can do it. Now, just back one more minute to Councillor Holden, because I want to read him, and maybe to some others, the definition of urban sprawl that I found on Wikipedia. Urban sprawl, also known as suburban sprawl, is the spreading of a city and its suburbs over rural land at the fringe of an urban area. And get this, residents of sprawling neighborhoods tend to live in single-family homes and commute by automobile to work. That's the definition of urban sprawl. Okay. And I'm going to stick with that one. Thank you.
Councillor Kipp.
I support this type of development on just some of the facts that Councillor Paget said. It is a mixed-use design. It's not a monocultured design, as we've had others mention. That slow, piecemeal growth that we're looking for in our community. We look at our borders. Everything about Nanaimo is sprawl. We're 52 square kilometers, very lineal. Lots of parts of different communities die and then they're reborn again. That's what revitalization is about. I really do support this type of planning because, as Councillor Paget talked about having a neighborhood plan, this master plan is as close to a futuristic neighborhood plan as we've seen in a long time. I think the proponents have done a wonderful job of mixing it and revitalizing an area that was kind of devastated over the last years as light industry and things like that. I think it'll be a great asset to the southern part of our community, regionalizing a bit more of our growth in that area. I think it's an important project for us for the future.
Thank you. Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. I like the concept. It's a walkable community, and what we've been talking about is having people in a community, in an urban node, that they can walk to all of the amenities that they want. But I am sure that the transportation and the improved network will be addressed, and in fact the final comment says the agency concerns will be addressed through the subsequent phase development agreement and rezoning stages of the development process. And I see this as economic development at its best through industrial and commercial development. So I'll certainly be supporting this motion.
Okay. No further discussion. Question on the motion? All in favour? Opposed? We see Councillor Sherry and Councillor Paget opposed. Balance of council in favour. It passes. The staff recommendation that council receive the report pertaining to official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 6500.006, which is presented under the bylaw section of this agenda. Staff recommendation. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Okay. RA 211 at 970-972 Brecken Road. Staff recommendation that council receive a report pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.460, which is presented under the bylaw section of the agenda, and 2, direct staff to secure the community contribution and the construction agreement and bonding for installation of a fence and landscaping.
Move the recommendation. Second motion.
Moved and seconded. No discussion. All in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. RA 226 at 635 2nd Street. Staff recommendation that council receive the report pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.464, which is presented under the bylaw section of this agenda, and 2, direct staff to secure the community contribution and register covenant to secure general building design, stormwater pre-development flows, and an erosion and sediment control plan.
Move the recommendation.
Move 1 and 2. Is there a seconder? Second. Moved and seconded. No discussion. All in favour? Opposed? Carried. The RA 227 at 2183 and 2177 Salmon Road. Staff recommendation that council receive the report pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009 number 4000.465, which is presented under the bylaw section of this agenda. And 2, direct staff to secure their community contribution and a lot boundary adjustment as a condition of rezoning. Okay, and is there a second to put it on the table? Move and second it. Discussion, Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. This item is familiar to an item that took place a couple of years ago on Hammond Bay Road, whereby the property was densified to increase its numbers by approximately 16 units. And at the time I asked the question, how dense is dense? And this property, based on Mr. Van Schubert's identification that it's already going to be increased by 4, would make complete sense to me as being dense enough. And the people having options to put suites in if they choose. So for that reason, I will not be supporting staff's recommendations 1 and 2.
That's, receiving the report pertaining to.
I'm not supporting 1 and 2.
Okay.
Can I be any clearer than that? No.
Okay, any further discussion? On the recommendation 1 and 2, all in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Bestwick and Councillor Kipp opposed. Balance of council in favor. Motion passes. The nuisance property 736 Nickel Street. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the property at 736 Nickel Street. Staff recommendation that council declare 736 Nickel Street a nuisance pursuant to nuisance abatement and cost recovery bylaw 2003 number 5645 and authorize staff to record and charge for municipal services including police required at this property to abate nuisances. What's your pleasure?
Move the staff recommendation.
Seconder?
Second on motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Illegal suites in a duplex, 2276 Rosstown Road. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the property at 2276 Rosstown Road. Is there anyone in attendance for that property, 2276 Rosstown Road? Staff recommendation that council by resolution pursuant to section 7273 of the Community Charter order the owner of 2276 Rosstown Road to remove 2 illegal suites from the duplex within 30 days or the work may be done by the city or its agent at the owner's cost. What's your pleasure?
Move the staff recommendation, but I'd like to also ask if this is the individual that we dealt with as a delegation at the last meeting?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and they indicated that there was others in that particular area. We haven't taken action, or we won't be taking action.
The bylaw department has a number of files in that area. I don't know how many in the same category, but we are certainly following up as we get complaints on them.
Thank you.
Okay, could we get a seconder to put this on the table? That you did, sorry, Dan. Okay. Any further discussion on it? Question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Illegal suite in a duplex, 2276 Rosstown Road. Is that the one that was pulled?
No, that's the one we did that one.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay. Unsightly premises at 40 Needham Street. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak before the lights go out with respect to the unsightly premises at 40 Needham Street. Staff recommendation that council pursuant to the property maintenance bylaw in 1990 number 3704 and amendments thereto direct the owners of 40 Needham Street to remove 3 unlicensed derelict vehicles and miscellaneous debris from the premises within 14 days or the work will be undertaken by the city's agent at the owner's cost.
Move the staff recommendation.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Sorry? I don't think there's anyone here in attendance, is there? Okay. Unsightly premise that has been pulled at 512 Selby. Unresolved building deficiencies, the notice entitled section 5.7. It is requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unresolved building deficiencies or illegal suites for the properties listed below. Staff recommendation that council by resolution instruct the Director of Legislative Services to file a bylaw contravention notice respecting the properties listed below at the Land Title and Survey Authority in British Columbia under Section 5 of the Community Charter. The first one is 51 Commercial Street, illegal construction, stairs, railings and guards. Is there anyone here that wishes to deal with the matter at 51 Commercial Street? Item 2 is 975 Terminal Avenue, illegal construction, plumbing for sinks. Anyone here that would like to discuss matters related to 975 Terminal Avenue? 3 is 2028 Kawatha Place, illegal construction and enclosed sunroom. Anyone here wants to discuss the matters related to 2028 Kawatha Place? Number 4, the 42 Kanaka Place, illegal construction and attached rear deck. Anyone here representing 42 Kanaka Place? The number 5 item, it's 3 Nickel Street, illegal construction, illegal dwelling unit. Anyone here wishing to deal with that matter at 333 Nickel? The next 6th is 4004 Tiki Lane, illegal construction, attached deck, finished basement, secondary suite, enclosed carport, enclosed upper deck, enclosed underneath the deck. Is there anything left? Is there anyone here that wants to deal with matters related to 4004 Tiki Lane? Okay, and number 7, 6425 Dover Road, illegal construction, attached carport, and attached woodshed. Anyone wants to deal with that? Are you just wandering by? Okay. 1010 Beaufort Drive, illegal construction, attached deck and stairs. Anyone here wants to deal with that issue at 1010 Beaufort Drive? 1635 Centennial Drive, illegal construction, foundation and stairs. Anyone here for 1635 Centenary Drive? 53 Howard Avenue, illegal construction, alterations to include a secondary suite. Anyone from 53 Howard Avenue in attendance? 98 Ashler Avenue, illegal construction, foundation, stairs and plumbing. Anyone here dealing with issues at 98 Ashler Avenue? Hearing none. If someone
prepared resolution that relates to all these 11 items.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Structural removal order, illegal secondary suite at 4975 Laguna Way. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the illegal secondary suite at 4975 Laguna Way. Is there anyone in attendance that dealing with the matters at 4975 Laguna Way?
The prepared resolutions.
Okay. Staff recommendation that council pursuant to section 73 resolve, and it's 1 and 2. Do you want to do them both?
Both.
Okay.
Yes. Second
both. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Toilet rebate program. Staff's recommendation that council approve up to an additional $10,000 in funding to be allocated to the toilet rebate program funded from the city's water fund.
Second move.
You're going to move it? And Councillor Beswick seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Corporate services, property tax exemption bylaw, staff's recommendation. The council received the report pertaining to property tax exemption bylaw 2009 number 7093, which is presented under the bylaw section of this agenda. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Community services, portable hot asphalt recycler. Staff's recommendation that council support the purchase of a portable hot asphalt recycler for an estimated price of $120,000 with the funding to be allocated from the vehicle replacement fund.
So moved.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're moving down to the upgrades, upgrades to the public works buildings. Staff recommendation that council authorize staff to transfer $109,000 from the public works equipment reserve to upgrade public works buildings. Moved. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Information item only. Nothing. Reconsider of bylaws. We'll turn it over to acting mayor, who I wish to thank for last meeting, which I was out of the town, actually out of the country, and Councillor Padgett did an outstanding job, I'm told, and thank you, sir. And if you would now like to walk us through the reconsideration of bylaws.
Thank
Thank you, Richard. Rezoning of bylaws. I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.454, RA 214 at 164 Pride Avenue, to rezone a part of the subject property from single-family residential zone RS1 to low-density multiple-family residential townhouse zone RM3 in order to permit a multi-family residential development be adopted.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.455, ZA1-11, to rezone 3 park properties, a walkway portion and an area east of the parking lot of Westwood Lake Park to PRC 1, 5291 Entwistle Drive, Entwistle Park, and 5373 Fillinger Crescent, Springfield Place, Entwistle Park to PRC 1, and 2043 Healy Road to PRC 2 be adopted.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.456, RA 219 530 5th Street, to permit a site-specific use of liquor store within the Community Shopping Centre Commercial Zone C7, pass third reading.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and now it's up for discussion. And the first, Councillor Padgett, were you speaking to that too?
Thank you, Worship. Well, this has been quite a season for this particular rezoning, which has gone on for a very long time. We received over 700 submissions. I believe it was about 400 against and 300 in favor. And it was quite the exercise. The public hearing, to me, came down to almost 2 visions. The people who were in favor of this particular amendment seemed to speak mostly about the convenience of being able to go to University Village Mall to obtain what would be offered there. And the ones who spoke against, and some with an awful amount of passion, were very worried about some of the consequences. And to me, Your Worship, the bottom line was that I felt that I was dealing with a very divisive issue. I think it has divided the neighborhood to some very serious extent. At least that's what I'm getting from my observation. Now, I want to take you back to January or February of this year, when I went to Harewood to attend a town hall meeting, so-called, that was called together for every stakeholder, everyone that had an interest into the well-being of Harewood. The residents were there, Vancouver Island University was there, Mr. Bosa was there with the Village Mall. There was a neighborhood association, and there were a great number of very enthusiastic people who spoke with fervor and with hope for the well-being of Harewood. It was at that meeting that I was able to remind the people of Harewood that we have a preamble in our official community plan which states that neighborhoods and valid neighborhood plans are the building blocks of our municipal society, and that is something that is of extreme importance to me. And when I drove home that evening, I was really struck by the fact of how hopeful people were and how they are willing and able to really put a lot of work and a lot of effort into getting Harewood where they want it to be. So if I look at that town hall meeting and I look at what's happened since, it's a positive and a negative to me. And quite frankly, I don't want to diminish that hope that I saw with my own eyes in January or February. And so I am not prepared to support this motion. I want, and I exhorted the people of Harewood to get their act together and come to this council to request the beginning of a neighborhood plan. And I think this kind of issue should be part of that discussion. And that's where I come from, and that is the reason that I shall not be supporting
Okay,
this.
Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, when I look at my score sheet here as it relates to those individuals that came to the public hearing and spoke either for or against there, and I also took note of the location that they indicated as where their residents were, and one reviews X number of emails that we received, and a lot of the people just signed their name with no address. Well, should they be for or against? I responded to those emails and asked them, could they please indicate the location of their residence as it relates to these emails. Well, it was surprising how many people responded and said they wanted their name off the list because they hadn't sent the email in the first place. You know, so and that was on both sides. It wasn't just one or the other one. Okay, then the gentleman that's lived across from the mall for over 30 years. Okay, it's a long history of that family of being in Harewood, as we used to call it. It used to be called the 5 acres. So there, and then the other thing is, and you know, these form letters and that, sign this, sign the other thing. I mean, you can, especially around Stanley Cup time, they come to your door, you'll sign anything just to get them away so you can get back to the game type of thing. And I have concern about them because it really, what have they put into it? They've just signed the thing to get rid of whomever's knocking at the door. And I was surprised that when we got the social planning committee and this went before them, I understand they were neither for or against the thing, and then you get one of the members shows up at the public hearing and hears what her neighborhood is saying and indicates that they're not in favor of it either. But I think one of the things is that when we look at the Harewood community and the stigma that's been laid on them the last little while, we got a bunch of young people in there now that want to revitalize and take back their Harewood to the community it was. And those are the people that came out and indicated that at this particular time they're not in support of. And also the other thing that got me here is that the RCMP had sent a letter from under Superintendent Lott, and it says the Nanaimo detachment has considered the application for a proposed rezoning of University Village to permit a liquor store. While we have no specific objection to the application, we are cognizant of the fact that historically the area around the mall has had some liquor-related disorder challenges. And the last statement here is we would encourage Council to consider relevant social, economic information, noise, traffic, the proximity of other liquor primary establishments, schools, parks, housing complexes in the context of whether another retail liquor store would provide service and hospitality benefits to the community versus the potential for greater liquor-related disorder issues. And I think that last issue was loud and clear from the general public that came out to this public hearing and express their concern. So, Mr. Chairman, when we start talking about the requests from the RCMP for additional people within their organization and the history of what's happening and what the community is trying to do there, those have major implications for me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, it has been quite a controversial topic, and certainly took note of the minutes from the public hearing and tried to summarize some of them. I would just say that, it's just as Councillor Sherry has said, this application has attracted considerable opposition, but also significant support. So counting votes doesn't seem to be particularly productive in this case. So we need to do what we're supposed to do in a public hearing, and that's try to weigh the arguments. Personally, I would prefer that all liquor distribution be done through provincial liquor control board stores. But that ended some time ago, and now the issue for us is fairness and the appropriateness of locations. So in considering some of the arguments, the one dealt with competition. And I don't believe that it's really the city's role to protect businesses from their competitors. So I've discounted those arguments, as well as the arguments from the proponent along the same lines. We can't change provincial laws regarding liquor stores and how far apart they are or are supposed to be, nor can we change anything to do with the availability of alcohol in our society. It is a controlled, but it is a legal substance. So we're left with the planning decision, and this is a planning matter. Good planning principles suggest that liquor stores should be located in commercial areas, especially malls, large or small. And in Vancouver and surrounding suburbs, and in fact most other communities, including ours, both public and private liquor stores are commonly found near grocery stores and other retailers. One of the ideas behind that is to reduce car trips, a kind of one-stop shopping. The other liquor stores in the Harewood area are quite a walk from the University Mall, and I believe most people would jump in their cars to access them, thus contributing to the concern of the RCMP. And we must remember that this is a relocation, not a new license coming into our community. A more serious issue, perhaps, is the effect on the neighborhood. And the only piece of actual research presented at the public hearing indicated that liquor stores have no deleterious effect on surrounding areas, although bars and pubs may indeed have an impact. Abuse of alcohol is a serious issue, but it does not take place in the liquor stores themselves. I would note that the liquor stores closest to this mall are all associated with pubs, while this one would not be. And in fact, Harewood Mall, under that name, had a liquor control board store for a brief time, a few years. Then there are the socio-economic concerns, and I note that the police report mentions those. And I'm not sure where this argument leads. Harewood is in transition. It's always been a proud and vigorous community. My daughter lives there. But it's in transition now. The housing prices have jumped more in this area than just about any other area in Nanaimo. It has been attracting new subdivisions and commercial investment. The college there has become a university, and realtors are now referring to it as the University District. And it has more parks and recreational facilities than any other area in town. How long are we supposed to think of Harewood as a poor and troubled member of the collection of neighborhoods that make up Nanaimo? Harewood is changing, and if we look back in 10 or 20 years, we'll probably wonder what all the fuss was about. We should not make decisions on the basis of old stigmas and stereotypes of what Harewood might have been. If this rezoning were taking place in the Rutherford Mall, for instance, would we be having the same discussion? And if not, why not? Are we being asked to make judgments here or assumptions based on perceptions of socioeconomic class? I hope not. Now, one of the arguments that came up in the public hearing concerned the proximity of the university and the notion that the students there are supposed to be studying and don't need access to a liquor store. I find that rather humorous after working there for 32 years, and especially when I remembered that the student union runs a pub on campus, and the Jingle Pot pub is a favorite of staff and students alike, just around the corner. Finally, I would point out that we have several examples of successful liquor stores that are close to residential areas and schools. And let me pick one. One is the liquor store in the Beaufort Centre. It's across from the hospital, it's close to Dufferin Elementary School, and it's surrounded by higher density housing.
Dufferin's closed.
And it has been open for a long time while the liquor store in the Beaufort Centre was open, and is open. And I'm not aware of any complaints or concerns arising from that location, or any of the others, for that matter. One issue that disturbed me from the public hearing, and that was the suggestion that bootlegging would take place. I've lived here for over 38 years now, and I've been bootlegged, I guess, or at least asked to bootleg for young people maybe 8 to 10 times in that, at all the different liquor stores. Didn't matter where they were in the area. Occasionally that happens. It's part of our adult responsibility to say no to kids that ask us to get booze for them. I'm not sure that that is really a concern of the rezoning. So the mere fact that a number of people don't want a liquor store in their neighborhood is not a sufficient reason for me to vote against this rezoning. The public hearing revealed that the neighborhood is split on the issue. Since public hearings naturally attract those who are opposed to something, the fact that almost as many of the speakers favored the proposal is revealing. However, we're not supposed to count the votes but weigh the arguments, as I said at the beginning, and I can't find sufficient reasons or arguments to deny this application, so I will be voting for it.
Okay, Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. My eloquent colleague has made a good number of my points, and thank you for your statements, Bill. The points I'd like to make and just reiterate are the fact that this is a transfer of a liquor license from one mall to another mall. It's not a pub. I don't believe it's going to create crime or any kind of problems in the neighborhood. There's going to be more security with the new mall owners. Both PNAC and the Social Planning Advisory Committee have endorsed this application. Harewood is my community, and I've seen that this mall has brought a great deal of pride into the community. There's a cleanliness in the area. People are picking up garbage, and that's got a lot to do with the South End Community Association, but it's brought new pride into the community. $18 million investment into our community is no small amount, and I thank the developers for taking a chance on Harewood. And I believe you when you say that you're going to try and get that bank and get that dollar store and get that restaurant that my neighbors so much want. And I think that this anchor of a liquor store will help to achieve that. I spent a great deal of time going through the reams of letters, and like my colleague Lloyd Sherry, I found that there was some dishonesty, or not dishonesty perhaps, but people were writing on both sides of the fence, from Lanceville, from Protection Island. Why do they have a say in what happens in the Harewood community? I didn't like it, and I gave it up as a futile exercise after about 120 that I'd called and found they didn't even live in Harewood. Bootlegging issue. I went to the various pubs in the community, in the neighborhood, the Oxy, the Jingle Pot. I spoke to the proprietors. Absolutely no incidents of bootlegging at those venues. So, Your Worship, I'll be voting in favour of this application because I believe it's going to be, in the long run, a good thing for our community.
Okay, thank you. We've got a couple more speakers yet, but I just would like to say a few words myself. At a previous council meeting, I did vote against this going to public hearing. And that was, at that time, my feeling. I since had a chance to talk to the applicant about the issues that I was concerned about, and certainly one of them was the concerns about youth in that particular area, certainly late at night. And I am now prepared to support the motion, but what I would like to suggest to the applicant, to Mr. Manhas, who's in the room with us now, that he embark upon a good neighbour policy program with the neighbours immediately adjacent to the site, and specifically I'm suggesting the 7-Eleven store, and I think that if Mr. Manhas took the responsibility of moving towards a good neighbour policy and involving not only his operation but as many others in that area, I think that would go a long ways towards mitigating some of the concerns that people have in the area. I also would suggest that, and previous speakers have alluded to this already, that if it was a bar or a pub and a liquor store, I would not be able to support it. It's a retail store, and I consider that in a different classification whatsoever. And so for those reasons, I will be supporting the motion. Councillor Unker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think there's been a lot of misinformation that has come out, and that's what's created the confusion. And a point in that argument is the application, as spelled out in the RCMP letter, is not for a liquor primary, which would be a drinking establishment, but it is for a retail liquor store. Also, during that time of the public hearing and leading up to the public hearing, I was actually offended by the suggestion that Harewood is made up of many renters who are then labeled as lesser citizens. To my feeling from everything I saw was a lot of that opposition was largely instigated by the owner of another liquor store in the area who, when he spoke before council, admitted he just wanted to stop any competition in his area. So there's a lot of fear-mongering about the impact, and I'm just uncomfortable with that, and the bottom line, a lot of what I wanted to say has already been said, but I would just ask council members to reflect on, will we treat Harewood any different than we did Rutherford Mall or North Town Centre, where I believe it was a unanimous vote of approval to move a liquor store in there, and the same thing to Country Club Mall, where it was virtually unanimous to move a liquor store in there. So
you're wrong.
I said almost unanimous. Is that still wrong?
That's
anyway, those are my points, is that why would we treat Harewood any different? Because we made these approvals for the other areas. So I will be supporting the motion.
Next is Councillor Bestwick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My position on this particular application, I haven't prepared a thesis, however, and the appropriateness of locations of where parks are placed or where malls are placed or where businesses are placed is before us in many various categories, of which this is one, like it or not. So the process, that we can't be hypocritical with the process and say votes don't count, but we certainly count them when we wish for them to work in our favor. So then when we do take notes and we do keep score, we keep score for a reason. And when the community spoke, and when we talk about appropriateness of locations of things, it It's the people that are within that community center. And we've identified in our official community plan, I believe, 5 community centers. And this particular community came out of all ages. People that grew up there, people that still live there, people that have chosen to live there, none of which are us, I don't think, here, sitting at this table. And they spoke very passionately about the impact of what they believe in their neighborhood that they're trying to take back, of all of those things that you just said, to take a greater degree of control. When you make reference to, when it's been referenced about a school within a proximity of another elementary school that's in proximity to another liquor store / the Windward you're making reference to, doesn't make it right. And doesn't mean that we would do it again because there's one there. And listening to the community when they came out and spoke, and I'm making specific reference when we say that we don't accept the 120 that came from nondescript addresses, and for or against, pro or con. The people that did show up from that community that live in it and have lived in it, and there's so many people that live in that community that send their kids out of that community to go to school. And it's approximately 90 yards from the front door of one of the most disadvantaged, say it like it is, elementary schools. And one of the most troubled areas, if we don't want to believe it or not, it is. We've made reference to Vancouver here tonight. I wouldn't want to see another one in East Hastings, but I don't live there. I will not be able to support the location transfer, so I will not be supporting this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of things on the Social Planning Committee that was mentioned earlier. They wanted me to bring forward, there was much debate, and originally they were in really no opposition to it. But one of the people during that vote in the Social Planning Committee is the person that changed their mind. They spoke in favor of it, and then once they talked to the public, they came here and were in opposition. This is just a transfer of a liquor license, and look at the concern and problem it's generated within our community. This is a provincial mandate. We take the heat. I don't see Ron Cantillon or any of the other provincial guys who are taking the heat for these provincial issues. We have the Nelson Welsh report that I've got to read over, and lots of information about liquor stores and establishment, and we were supposed to set our limits within that report. Post that, there was the proliferation of the Liberals' open-door policy on liquor establishments. And we always talk about appropriate lobbies or that, and I concur with Councillor Bestwick. They're appropriate if they're on my side. My personal bias says if they agree with me, it's a really good thing, and if they don't agree with me, then I don't want to have anything to do with it. I consider this an interesting one where we don't have a liquor master plan. And we have a master plan for a lot of other stuff, and we do not have a liquor master plan. And I believe I can't support this application. It is just from the public numbers that I've seen and my concern with it. I should have opened by saying, hi, my name is Jim. Oh, wrong meeting. But I think we've got to look at these, and individual applications like this cause us great concern. And I think this council has to look at a liquor master plan and how our liquor services are. So I can't support this as it sits now.
Okay.
I think the questions.
Question. Those in favor of the motion? One, two opposed? We have 3-4 opposed, 5 in favor. Do you agree with that? The motion passes. Carry on, Councillor Paggi, please, with D.
Move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.457, RA 220, 477 10th Street, to rezone the subject property from single-family residential zone RS1 to public institution zone P2 in order to facilitate the construction of a personal care facility be adopted.
Second, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.458, RA 222, 1918 Latimer Road, to rezone the subject property from single-family residential zone RS1 to single-family residential small lot zone RS6 in order to facilitate subdivision and create 2 RS6 lots be adopted.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Introduction of bylaws.
Thank you, Worship. I move that signed bylaw amendment bylaw 2008, number 7081.
It's been order, but
so we've done that.
This one has been referred to.
Okay, so sorry about that.
That's fine. And I think that'll deal with number 2, number 3. So we'll deal with 14B1.
So we go B1, 2, and 3, right?
That's correct.
I move that property tax exemption bylaw of 2009, number 7093, to exempt certain lands and buildings from taxation pass first reading.
Second motion.
Move and second, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that property tax exemption bylaw 2009, number 7093, pass second reading.
Second motion.
Move and second, all in favor? Opposed?
And I
Carried.
move that property tax exemption bylaw 2009, number 7093, pass third reading.
Second motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Introduction of development bylaws.
Thank you, Worship. Move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.460, RA 211, 970 and 972 Brecon Road, to rezone property from residential duplex zone RM1 to residential triplex and quadruplex zone RM2 in order to legalize an existing quadruplex, fourplex, pass first reading.
Okay. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Okay. I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.460, pass second reading.
Seconder. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.464, RA 226, 65 2nd Street, to rezone property from single-family residential zone RS1 to single-family small lot zone RS6 in order to facilitate a 3-lot subdivision, pass first reading.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 400464, pass second reading.
Second motion.
Moved and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.465, RA 226, 2183 and 2177 Salmon Road, to rezone the properties from single-family residential zone, large lot, RS2, to residential duplex zone, RM1, pass first reading.
Is there a seconder? Second. All in favor? Opposed? And Councillor Bessick opposed. Balance of council in favor.
Move that zoning bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 4000.465, pass second reading.
Second. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bessick opposed. Balance of council in favor. It passes.
And we've dealt with D1, have we not?
No, I don't think so.
Number 1 needs to be read.
Okay. Move that the official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 6500.006, OCP 45, 1200 Frew Road, 1560-1650 Island Highway South, to include the Sandstone Master Plan within the Chase River Neighbourhood Plan to permit a comprehensive mixed-use development, pass first reading.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Paggi opposed. Balance of council in favor. It passes. I'm sorry, I didn't see the hand up there. It was
And I move that official community plan bylaw amendment bylaw 2009, number 6500.006, pass second reading.
Okay, seconder. All in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Sherry and Councillor Patchy opposed. The balance of council in favor, it passes.
Receipt of the correspondence.
Second motion.
Okay, I just would like to make a comment. Okay, before we do, now that it's on the floor, I just want to make a comment that I did receive an email from Pacific Coach Lines about the service they're discontinuing, which is item 16D. And while I was in Vancouver, I was quite surprised to get a call from CBC Radio wanting to come down and interview me about this, and which they did. And, I'm just disappointed the service has been terminated, but after 1 year of losing money, I think Pacific Coach Lines did all they could to make the project a success. I'd like to think that with the advent of the Winter Olympic Games coming to Vancouver, that might be a viable service again. And of course, this is another point where we'd like to push for our fast passenger-only ferry.
On that topic.
Yes, go ahead.
We've had other correspondence from people locally with regard to this, and they questioned the amount of promotion that had been done. I would venture to suggest that very few councillors were aware of the fact that that service was available, and I know the very few citizens of Nanaimo were aware that they could take the ferry and then the bus to the airport, and it was not well promoted. And if they did a better job of letting the community know, they might have had better success.
Okay, thank you. We had Councillor Kipp and Councillor Johnstone, but you didn't have a comment, did you? This is
that was from an issue before, but it's okay.
I'm remembering that. We're going to the question period. It's on agenda items only.
Your Worship,
Mm-hmm.
you just go back to the letter from the sport movement. I'd like to...
What number are you talking about?
To letter A, correspondence number A.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion requesting that Council pass a resolution to join the True Sport movement.
Second motion.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We dashed that by a little quickly. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Okay, we'll now move into question period. Agenda items only.